Hello and welcome to the Roy Rogers News Channel. Thank you so much for watching. And for today's PokeMMO fun-filled ability, well, we're going to dive into a certain ability that can help you out with your gym fights. And with me to discuss that ability is RickMasterZ, which actually hello to everybody.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I know I'm doing pretty well, considering the fact that you caught a pretty valuable shiny, and I appreciate your time being here on the Roy Rogers News Channel.
Hey, no problem, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, alright. And I should note that I'm not going to be asking about that valuable shiny because Young Cabbage actually did a really excellent job interviewing RickMasterZ about his shiny Suicune. Oh yeah, speaking about that, RickMasterZ would like me to feature his Suicune, and I would like to thank him for allowing me to hold on to the Suicune for the program, so thank you so much, RickMasterZ.
Hey, no problem.
Certainly. And there's a summary there. Timid. Wow, alright. I noticed you used a Master Ball, so... Were you in a rush, or...?
Yeah. I just felt like the Master Ball fit the, how rare and epic of a Pokemon that is as a shiny, so... And honestly, most of the ones that I see also have Master Balls, other shiny ones.
Certainly. Yeah, that's impressive. And... yeah, now I don't want to ask any more questions. I just wanted to ask about the Master Ball because that kind of caught my attention. But yeah, Young Cabbage, watch Young Cabbage's video for the rest of the interview if you really are concerned about that Suicune. But I'm going to go ahead and feature the Suicune here specifically for RickMasterZ since he has accepted my offer to be on the program. So thank you so much, RickMasterZ, for being on the Roy Rogers News Channel. And I am honored to hold on to your Suicune.
Anytime, man.
And without further ado, let's go and dive into this ability right now, Telepathy. You might be asking me, hey Roy, so what is Telepathy? And that's a good question. Telepathy basically dodges all allied hits, like Earthquake and Surf. So basically, any damage from teammates are negated. So as an example, if this Suicune to my left here decides to use Surf, well then, you can be able to fight gym leaders, and you don't have to worry about using Surf because your friend will be able to dodge that courtesy of Telepathy. It does not work on Pokemon with abilities like Mold Breaker because Mold Breaker is just going to bypass that check and then it's going to knock out the Pokemon with Telepathy. Make sure you use a Pokemon that doesn't have the ability Mold Breaker. I see a lot of people using Garchomp and that sort of thing because Garchomp doesn't have Mold Breaker and you could be able to use Earthquake and be able to hit a lot of targets all at once. Or you can use the Suicune here and Suicune can learn Surf. Now this particular Suicune doesn't have Surf, but you know, if you have a Suicune, you can be able to teach it Surf, and you can be able to knock out a fair amount of Pokemon. Or you can use the Raikou, and Raikou can use the move Discharge. Or Zapdos can use the move Discharge, and you can be able to knock out a fair amount of Pokemon. So, there we go. So that is the purpose of Telepathy. RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary about that?
I would say there isn't a huge selection of Pokemon that learn it, unfortunately.
RickMasterZ, are you ready to dive into the ability video?
Let's do it.
Alright, and our very first Pokemon is going to be Wobbufett. Now you might be wondering, hey Roy and Rick, so what are the main benefits to Wobbufett? And that's a good question. Well, Wobbufett has a pretty amazing HP stat of 190, and it's actually the highest HP stat of all the Pokemon listed here. And also another benefit to Wobbufett is that he has access to both Counter and Mirror Coats. Let's just say that a gym leader decides to use a physical special move against you. Well then, Wobbufett has an answer to that, and you can use Counter or Mirror Coat against the gym leaders. So that's certainly something that's really nice. But I gotta discuss its drawbacks. Let's go and start off with the fact that Wobbufett's moveset is pretty less than stellar, to say the least, considering the fact that Wobbufett only can learn Counter, Mirror Coat, Destiny Bond, Safeguard, Encore, Charm, Amnesia, Mimic, and Tickle. That's a pretty shallow moveset for Wobbufett, and also it doesn't allow you to really do many maneuvers, and I wish something like Wobbufett can learn the move Metal Burst in order to counteract against physical and special attacks, because Metal Burst essentially allows you to hit both sides of the spectrum, and Wobbufett is only bound towards Counter and Mirror Coat, which also brings its own drawbacks. So let's just say you're fighting against a Dark-type Pokemon, right? And that Dark-type Pokemon decides to use a special attacking Dark-type move. Well, you can't use Mirror Coat because a Dark-type Pokemon is immune to Mirror Coat. And same for a physical attacking Ghost-type with a physical Ghost-type attack. Let's throw in an example here. So let's just say that you're fighting against a gym leader, and that gym leader has Dusknoir, right? and it's going to hit you pretty hard physically, and you can't use counter. Or, as a dark type example, let's just say you're fighting against something like a Hydreigon, right? A pretty good special attacking Hydreigon. And you want to retaliate against Hydreigon on the special side, and you can't do it because Wobbufett cannot use Mirror Coat on Hydreigon since Hydreigon is part dark type. And you can't use counter on Dusknoir since Dusknoir is a ghost type. So that's the drawback to Wobbufett. Also, another drawback to Wobbufett is that egg group. Chaos is a pretty expensive egg group to breed on PokeMMO, and I ask that you please don't waste your money on breeding a Wobbufett. And this is a hidden ability after all, so this is not the way to use Wobbufett. If you want to use Wobbufett, I would say just use the Shadow Tag one. Even though, yes, PokeMMO does have certain checks and balances, and one of the many checks and balances PokeMMO has is the fact that Shadow Tag can expire after 3 turns. After 3 turns, then Shadow Tag doesn't really apply. But even then, I would say Shadow Tag is a lot more useful than Telepathy for Wobbufett. I would also like to note another disadvantage to Wobbufett. Look at that base speed stat, 33. You are not going to outspeed a fair amount of things, and especially in a gym run, when things are chop, you need to move pretty fast, and Wobbufett is not going to be able to accomplish that goal with the base speed stat of 33. RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary to say about our lovely blue punching bag friend here?
Wobbufett is pretty tough as a Pokemon, like you said, with the moves that it learns. I definitely agree with you with the what is that, Metal Burst?
Metal Burst, yes.
Yeah, it needs something.
I agree with that, and also the fact that its attack and special attack doesn't really work. Even if you do try to do some sort of gimmick set where you let Wobbufett learn Mimic, you're like, okay, yeah, I can mimic a move. Yeah, but your attack and special attack are base 33. You're not going to do anything against any gym leaders. RickMasterZ, are you ready to move on to the next Pokemon before our punching bag starts crying on us?
Yep, let's do it.
Alright, excellent. And now we're going to dive into one of the best Pokemon. And what is it? It is Gardevoir. Now you might be wondering, hey Roy, so what are the main perks to Gardevoir? And that's a good question. Look at that special attack stat. 125, and then complement it with its base 115 special defense. And then complement it with its base 80 speed stat. Gardevoir is really well-rounded for this job. I'd say Gardevoir is probably the Pokemon to use for the job of Telepathy. Why? Because while your Zapdos or Suicune are attacking and they're doing all area attacks, then you could be able to use certain singular attacks like Thunderbolt. You can use Psychic, Shadow Ball. You have access to Energy Ball, Aurora Sphere, which, by the way, Aurora Sphere can't miss unless you're fighting against a Ghost-type Pokemon. Shadow Ball, Signal Beam, Vacuum Wave, which is a priority move, by the way, and it's a special attacking priority move, so that's pretty cool. Hyper Voice, so just in case you want Gardevoir to also have a spread move, you have that option too. And you have Ice Beam, good for the Dragon-type gym leaders. You have access to just so many tools here. Thunderbolt, Hidden Power, in case you want to do Hidden Power Fire to fight against things like Caesar. There's so many options you have for Gardevoir. Not to mention the fact that you not only have access to Psychic, but you also have access to Psyshock. And Psyshock is good against special defensive targets like Blissey, for example. Because Blissey can wall your Psychic, but I don't know if Blissey can really wall your Psyshock so well. So, yes, I would say that Gardevoir is pretty well adjusted for this role. Also, another main benefit to Gardevoir is this. Gardevoir just complements your team pretty well, considering the fact that most spread moves are physically oriented, like Earthquake, for example. You can complement it with Garchomp, or if you're an owner of a Suicune, you can have that Gardevoir learn Side Shock, so that way you can be able to hit things like Blissey, for example, right? Or Zapdos with Discharge, etc., etc. So there's so many teammates you can have, and really the sky is the limit for Gardevoir, so that's all I have to really say about our lovely friend with green hair. But now let's go and talk about our con, shall we? Con number 1 is that Telepathy is a hidden ability, which means that getting breeders for Gardevoir is going to be very expensive, considering the fact that hidden ability Pokemon are more expensive than the Pokemon without the hidden ability, generally speaking. And also another con to Gardevoir is this. Gardevoir is not only Chaos, but it's Humanoid egg group. Probably 2 of the most expensive egg groups to breed for. I would say Humanoid is a little cheaper than Chaos at the time of this taping, because at least with Humanoid you have access to things like Spin Depth, which does kind of equalize that a little bit. But Chaos, you don't have access to any field equivalent there. Water, yes, you have access to Shellos, but really, Chaos breeders are very expensive to get, so that's one of the cons there. And the hidden ability itself is also expensive to get too, so make sure you do a lot of budgeting prior to getting Gardevoir. Gardevoir is not the easiest tool to get in the world, but once you get it, trust me, it's going to be very useful, and it's a one-time expense. And feel free to use Gardevoir however you would like. So, RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary to say about our lovely friend with green hair?
Yeah, just like you said, probably is the best option in terms of being an offensive help on your side of the field during potentially gym runs or any other type of double battles. I like it.
Certainly, yeah. I love that 125 special attack. That's pretty awesome. And then he complemented the 80 speed. I mean, it can be a really good ally, especially for your Suicune there, if you want to use your Suicune for gym fights. I would like to make a quick build for Gardevoir here, so that way if you would like to use this information, you can. So let's go ahead and talk about that, shall we? So for the nature, I would like to do modest nature. Then for the IVs, I would like to do 25 plus HP, 25 plus defense, 25 plus special defense. And then for special attack and speed, this is important. You want 31 in special attack and 31 in speed. And then for the EVs, you want 202 speed and 202 special attack. And then for the moves, you want to have Psychic and Psyshock. So that way, whoever your ally is, you can be able to use either Psychic or Psyshock, depending on what deficit your team has. If you have a deficit towards special attackers, then you can have Psychic. Or if you have a special attacking team and your deficit is a physical attack, so you can run Psyshock, because Psyshock targets the opponent's defense stat rather than the opponent's special defensive stat. And that's why people like to use Psyshock on Blissey. As for the last two slots in Gardevoir's moveset, you can either pick from Aurora Sphere, Energy Ball, Hidden Power, Hyper Voice, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Vacuum Wave, or Signal Beam. And then for the item, you can go ahead and let Gardevoir hold either Wise Glasses, or you can let it hold Choice Specs. And what that Choice Specs is going to do, it can allow you to hit really hard, or you can do Wise Glasses. It's going to have its special attacks hit a little less, but you have the flexibility of using your options rather than being locked on one move and then being forced to switch in and out every time you want to use another move. Or you can give Gardevoir a Twisted Spoon or a Mind Plate, which can allow for Gardevoir to have a plus 20% boost to any Psychic type moves, like Psychic or Psyshock. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all we can really say about Gardevoir here. Gardevoir just does a really good job here in terms of being able to represent its teammates really well. So let's go and dive into our very next Pokemon, shall we? Because I don't want this to become Gardevoir Praise Hour, but Gardevoir just does a really good job out of all the selection here. So let's go and dive into our very next Pokemon with the hidden ability of Telepathy. What is it? It is Medicham. And what are the main perks of Medicham? And that's a good question. It is the only Pokemon with a Duo typing that has access to the Telepathy ability. Now, of note, Telepathy for Medicham, on PokeMMO, as the time of this taping, is currently not released yet, but when it is released, at least Medicham can have that designation. Another main benefit to Medicham is this. It is access to the elemental punches, and I would say it's the only Pokemon that is physically oriented in terms of being able to learn moves like Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Close Combat, Poison Jab, Psycho Cut, Bullet Punch, which is an egg move, and Rock Slide. And now I gotta talk about its cons. Let's go start off with the fact that Telepathy is a hidden ability. Getting a hidden ability Medicham in the future, I believe, is going to be quite expensive, because usually when you get hidden ability Pokemon, they're quite expensive. That's track record, at least. So if this is a hidden ability for Medicham, then you might want to budget a little bit. But I would say don't get Medicham. If you're going to budget for a humanoid, get Gardevoir. Don't get Medicham. Another main con is this. You know how in the movies, how the actors and actresses wear makeup in the scene and really nice in the makeup, and then you see them without makeup, and they're like, whoa, is this the same person? Have you had that feeling, Rick?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there we go. Well, in PokeMMO, we have that equivalent, and that equivalent is called Wobbufett and Medicham. You know why?
The lipstick?
You're close, but there's another reason. The reason why you think of Wobbufett the way you think of Wobbufett is because of Shadow Tag. The reason why you think of Medicham the way how you think of Medicham, being like, wow, it's a pretty hard attacker. Why does it have a base 60 attack? Because of its pure power ability. and you're taking that away for Telepathy, right? Which is a hidden ability, and I would argue the even more expensive equivalent of Medicham. Why do you want it to have a base 60 attack? Why not go for the pure power Medicham? Yeah, you probably can't use it in a gym run, but you know what? I would say that that's significantly better than dealing with a base 60 attack on Medicham. So I would say that Medicham having a high attack is more of an illusion rather than a reality. And if you want to test out my theory, then feel free to check out Azumarill's ability, and then check out Azumarill's attack, because Azumarill, exact same scenario. So Azumarill has huge power, and its base attack stat is base 50. So just want to let you know that huge power is almost like an actor wearing makeup. So have that in your mind, and think of Medicham when you think of that too. So RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary to say about our actor friend known as Medicham?
You hit it on the head there. I mean, I honestly did not know of that power on this Pokemon, to be honest with you. I did think the attack was higher on it, but very like you describe it.
Before we start ruining the illusion of Medicham, I want to go ahead and dive into our very next Pokemon, because I don't want Medicham to sue me later. So let's go and dive into our very next Pokemon right now. What is it? It is Musharna. All right. And what are the main perks to Musharna? Look at that HP stat. That HP stat is base 116. That's pretty high. Not as high as Wobbufett, but certainly very high. And also another main perk to Musharna is that it has a pretty good special attack stat of base 107. That's pretty cool. One more perk for Musharna is this. Musharna has an egg group of fields, so it's actually really easy to get breeders for Musharna. Oh yeah, and I would like to mention one more perk as well, and it'd be the fact that Musharna has access to Psychic, Energy Ball, Hidden Power, Shadow Ball, and Signal Beam. And also it has access to Psyshock, just in case you want to defeat things like Blissey. But now I gotta discuss cons. Con number one is that Telepathy is a hidden ability, which means that getting a breeder for your Musharna there might be a little bit expensive if you want the hidden ability. Also, another main con to Musharna is this. Look at that speed stat. It's a pathetic 29. A lot of things are going to outspeed you. And in a world of gym runs, when you want to use up your coin, I mean, that is not really going to cut it. Base speed of 29? Musharna can't even do things, right? It can't do much things. Compare that to Gardevoir, which can do things. Musharna can't. And that's its main con there. And also, one more main con there. You know how I said the moveset has enough moves you can be able to do things? I meant it when I said that Musharna has enough moves to do things. No Vacuum Wave, it has no Thunderbolt, it doesn't have Ice Beam for the Dragon-type gym leaders, it doesn't have Hyper Voice for spread, it just doesn't have so many things that you need your Pokemon to have in order to be an effective ally. It does have some things, but it doesn't have everything. RickMasterZ, what do you have to say about our lovely friend with puff coming out of its nose?
Yeah, definitely too slow. It does learn, I'm seeing it learns Trick Room, so maybe you could do something potentially with that on it. Maybe get something else that's very slow speed, but maybe tanky or something. Maybe that could work, but it is, like you said, as it is right now with the 29 speed, that's tough for sure.
Well, maybe in a PvP setting in NU that might work, but not necessarily in a gym team, because in a gym team, everything is fast. Everything is fast. I'm not sure if you're hearing my snapping here in the recording, but everything is fast. Chop, chop. Amulet Coin, everything's fast. You don't want to do a setup move with Trick Room. You want to just go straight in, and you want to do your moves right away. Gardevoir is good at that. Musharna is terrible at that. Musharna is almost always going to move second, and it is not optimal. And you might justify that by saying, okay, the special attack. Yeah, but Gardevoir has a high special attack, and it could be able to move alongside with its ally, or it can even outspeed its ally. So that's something you might want to consider. I'm just going to say this. I would say that Musharna is probably not the most optimal Pokemon for your gym team. So I just want to note that. Don't run it because you want it to help you out in the special attacks. Just run it if you need extra bulk. Now, RickMasterZ, are you ready to dive into our last Pokemon here?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, excellent. Let's go and talk about Beheeyem. All right, so what are the main perks of Beheeyem? And that's a good question. Beheeyem has access to Psychic, Dark Pulse, which has a flinch chance, Energy Ball, Flash Cannon, Hidden Power, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Tri-Attack, and Signal Beam. And it can also learn Psyshock for targets like Blissey. So that's its perk there. And also, the Beheeyem is the only Pokemon that can get Telepathy without it being its hidden ability. So that's certainly something that's really cool. Another pro for Beheeyem is that it's pretty bulky, and also it has the exact same special attack as Gardevoir. So that's certainly something that is really nice. Base 125 special attack. So now let's go and dive into our cons. Let's go and start off with the fact that it is humanoid, and humanoid is one of the most expensive egg groups to breed for. Not as expensive as Chaos, but certainly up there in the price range. One of the main drawback to Beheeyem is this. That speed stat is at a pathetic 40. You're not going to outspeed a fair amount of things in your gym runs, and when you're on a coin, everything needs to be quick. Everything needs to be fast. You can't move and say, you can't just try to set up. You might say, Roy, Beheeyem has access to Nasty Plot. I can just make my special attack go higher and higher. Yeah, but in a gym run team, you want things to go fast. You want that coin to be worth something. You don't want to just do one Nasty Plot in the end. You want to just do things in the end. Not like Nasty Plot, they can knock out the gym leaders. No, you want to do your attacks and not have to worry about trying to knock out the gym leaders after. Because everything is fast, Amulet Coin only lasts for an hour, and you have so many gyms to conquer, and plus, with all that extra time, you could be using that time to fight NPCs, you could be using that time to fight Marmoto, you can use that time to fight Cynthia in Undella Town. There are so many different ways you can use your coin, and wasting time just to use Nasty Plot, I would say, is not that efficient. Yes, you can run a Choice Scarf, but then you're locked into one move, and that's not really nothing I advise for you to do. So, RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary about our alien friend here?
He's a cool looking Pokemon, but like you said, too slow for sure. If you want to be as efficient as possible, I would not recommend it.
Before we sign off, now it's time for us to do our rankings. Alright, so now as for the Gym Run Team, let's go and start off with number 1. It is obvious. Gardevoir! And the reasons why Gardevoir is the number 1 spot is due to the things that I've highlighted previously in the Gardevoir section. The fact that Gardevoir has a pretty nice speed stat of base 80, and the fact that it has a really excellent special attack stat of 125, I mean, it is quite amazing at its job, and I cannot understate how wonderful Gardevoir is. And if you want the IVs, EVs, and the movesets, then I ask that you rewind the tape a little bit and you go to Gardevoir, because I talk about the move options that you have for Gardevoir. So yeah, Gardevoir is a really excellent Pokemon, and I hope you all enjoy using that particular Pokemon in your Gym Run team. So that's the number 1 ranking, Gardevoir. And now for the number 2 ranking, I would have to say Beheeyem, because it is the second lowest speed stat, and also the fact that it's not a hidden ability, so it's actually a little easier to breed than Musharna, because Musharna you have to time as to when Alpha Musharna spawns, and you don't know when that's going to take place. That is second there. So Beheeyem secures that second spot. Now as for that third spot, I would say Musharna would be that third spot, because Musharna is slow, but considering the fact that its competition either doesn't have enough attack power, or its competition literally has no other moves besides its small world, welcome to Wobbufett world, which is not saying much for Musharna. So Musharna has the third place, not because it's the third best, but more so because it's not as bad as Medicham or Wobbufett. I'm sorry to sound hurtful, I just want to throw it out there. That's why Musharna secures that third spot. So yeah, alright, RickMasterZ, do you have any commentary to say about either Gardevoir or Beheeyem or Musharna?
Nah, I think you filled out the list pretty well. I would agree with all those rankings.
Certainly. Now, if you had to pick one of the 3 to use with your Suicune, which one would you use?
Would probably have to go Gardevoir. I think it's really the only viable one in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Man, I'm sorry to all the Wobbufett fans. Alright, and with that, that's going to go ahead and conclude our program. RickMasterZ, thank you again for letting me hold on to the Suicune. I really appreciate holding the Suicune here on the Roy Rogers News channel.
Hey, no problem.
Before I sign off, I'd like to do the most ethical thing. I'm going to go ahead and offer Rick his Suicune back, because this is his Suicune, not mine. And thank you so much for letting me hold on to the Suicune.
Yep, no problem.
Certainly. And at that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. This is the Roy Rogers News channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content here. And thank you so much, Rick, for being a wonderful co-host here on the Roy Rogers News channel.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Certainly. This is the Roy Rogers News channel. Don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel, like the content here. And this is the Roy Rogers News channel signing off. Fast, accurate, unbiased, Roy Rogers News.